All right, I am so excited that we actually have David Williamson here with us today to drop some knowledge. David, do you want to give just a little background on where you're at in the solar industry, where you came from?
Yeah, I'm the former CEO and founder of Titan Solar Power. Titan Solar Power was in existence for about 11 years, and we were the number one solar contractor in the nation. And I've started with a new company called Empower Energy in the Northeast. We sell Solaredge, obviously. That's why the reason why we're talking in this moment. But yeah, I've been in solar for 13 years, and I'm known as a good operator and solar installer. When the truth is, I'm a really good salesperson. I'm a super charming and charismatic and lovely salesperson, and I did great in the home. But now I'm known for being an installer. How boring.
I think you're more known for like being a mentor and being somebody that inspires us to keep going in the industry. So I think you're being a bit humble, which isn't normal. But
It isn't normal. No one would say that about me.
one of those pieces is this 120% rule that we hear about a lot. Sales reps typically don't get that type of education, but I have heard you talk about the 120% rule in a really simplified way that helps people to understand the technical side. Would you be able to go through that with us?
Yeah. So, long time ago, when I was first selling, when I would sell too big of a system, I was told that we would have to derate the customer's main breaker. And I said, okay, why? And they go, well, because the back feed for the solar is too big and it doesn't work. So we have to derate. And that's the explanation. And I go, okay. They go, it's going to cost $700, $500. And I go, oh, out of what? They go, out of your commission. And I go, wait a minute. Can't I learn the rule or whatever you're talking about? And they go, yeah, we'll just teach you the rule. Whatever the main breaker is, times by 20%. And that's how much you can put for a backfed breaker. And I go, okay. And then I had the inverter sizes on a chart lined up with the breaker size. So I'm like, okay. And I thought that was it. And it was just in an effort to basically shut me up because I was a curious salesperson. And after I talked more and more, especially to electricians and designers, I'm like, what is this 20% rule? They go, there is no 20% rule. I go, well, what do they talk about? And they're saying they've dumbed it down for you. It's a 120% rule. And it's the notion that you can put 120 amps, 120% of the bus rating on the bus bar. And salespeople aren't told what a bus bar is, but they are told what the load center looks like. You know where the black handles are. You know where your hair dryer flips when you're using it too much, right? Sales rep goes, yeah. I go, okay, that's your load center. There's a main breaker up there. That has a value. What does it say? They go, 200. I go, right. 200 amp main breaker. Look on the inside of the door, though. There's a piece of paper. What does it say the bus rating is? They go, oh, bus rating 200. And I go, right. You have a 200 amp bus rating. The bus bar is the jagged piece of metal that goes back and forth that all our breakers are stabbed onto that supply the power. You can take a 200 amp bus bar, you multiply it by 120%. You should be able to figure that out. 120% of 200 is 240. So we can have a 240 amps of power on that bus bar. The main breaker is 200, which means we've got 40 left over, which means I could put a 40 amp solar breaker in the bottom of the bus bar at the opposite end of the main breaker. And sales reps go, oh, okay, that's how you size it up. And I go, right. What happens when we have to use a big solar system with a 60 amp breaker? They go, 60 is too much. And I go, you're right. What about a smaller system? Can I put a 30 amp in there? They go, yes. I go, of course, it's under. Take the main breaker value plus the solar breaker. If the total of those is within the 120% of the bus rating, you're all set. So when I would explain D rates to people, I'd say your bus bar is 200. So you got your 240. Your main breaker is currently 200, but you want to put a 60 amp solar breaker on the bottom. What you do is you can derate the main breaker. You need 20 extra amps for the other one. Well, we can't derate from 200 down to 180 because a 180 amp breaker doesn't exist. The next commercially available breaker is a 175. So you derate the main breaker to 175. You've created 25 on the top. You get to place it on the bottom. Now I've got 175 on top plus my 60 on the bottom, 235 amps within the 240, 120% rule. There you go. Sales rep goes, great. Now I know how to look for D rates. You sure do, sales rep. And if you need even more amps for backfeed on the solar, where you needed 80, you could possibly derate down to 150 amps. There is a limit, though. You can't perpetually derate the main breaker because it has to protect the rest of the breakers. So at some point, we have to do load calculations to make sure we're not derating too low. If we get derate too low, we either need a new panel or something called a line side tap to avoid all that. And the reason why I explained that, and that was kind of a long explanation, but if anyone's listening to you, it's a really good one. The reason why I would explain that to sales reps, because I'd tell them, if you're selling a solar system and using Solaredge as the inverter, the 7600 inverter has a 40 amp breaker. If you're at a home with a 200 amp load center, you know that's the biggest inverter you can sell before you have to talk about a possible line side tap, possible derate, or possible main panel upgrade. You know the 40 amp breaker will fit into a 200 amp load center with a 200 amp main breaker. And then they go, yeah, I got that. And I go, great. Now figure out how many panels, depending on the wattage of the panel, how many panels fit onto a 7600 before it could be overloaded. Whatever that number is, if it's 23 modules, because you're selling a 420 watt panel, then you know if I sell 23 and under, I'm safe on a 200 amp load center. You sell your 24th panel, your inverter size goes up to a 10,000 inverter, which is going to need a 60 amp breaker, which is going to need some kind of electrical work. If you're using microinverters, the threshold is even different. It's 1 or 2 panels less than the Solaredge one. So as you get into bigger systems, you're definitely going to have more derates, more main panel upgrades, and more line side taps, which is all extra charges for the salesperson when you have a microinverter system, because the Solaredge allows more AC or more DC going into the AC.